Playoffs locked up, and the Bills looking for more, so they add a player to the practice squad. I'm Kevin Carroll. Welcome to the Buffalo End Zone Podcast, everyone. This is no ordinary practice squad player.
Yeah, Micah Hyde, the former All-Pro veteran safety, one of the biggest players, one of the keys of this Sean McDermott era, back with the Bills, and he made no bones about it. He's chasing a championship. The Bills have just as good a chance as any this year to make that happen for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And here they are in the stretch run. AFC East already locked up, but you want more. Micah Hyde. And how much we're going to get from Micah Hyde? I mean, on the surface, Andy, the Bills are saying, no one's job is in jeopardy. Micah Hyde is here. He's coming more in a leadership role, mentor. He knows he's part of the practice squad now, but I have a sneaking feeling that it's just not him on the practice squad for these final 5 games. So we'll dive into that because there's a lot going on right now, and this was something that had been talked about since training camp. Micah Hyde's out there, and I almost asked today, but I would have looked dumb if I did, so I'm glad I backed off of it.
That never stopped you before.
No, but in larger crowds, I'm fine with being an idiot here. I don't like being an idiot in front of large crowds.
Okay.
Which means maybe in the future, if we're out at an event somewhere, I might not talk at all. But they never used Micah Hyde's locker. They never gave anyone the number 23.
Right.
My question was, is number 23 still available without looking at the roster? And yeah, they kept that all there. And you got sly looks from some of the players like, oh, we knew he was coming. Did you officially know? No, we didn't officially know, but the communication was open this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, when Micah Hyde was a free agent after the end of last season, he left that door wide open and said, it's either stay with Buffalo or I'm going to retire. And he never officially retired, never filed that paperwork with the NFL. They kept the lines of communication open between he and Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and Hyde's agent throughout this process. And it wasn't something where they were constantly talking about this, but there would be periodic check-ins here and there. And you thought that this was at some points a possibility. There was a lot of talk about it during training camp when there were injuries to various guys throughout that process, and it didn't happen then. And we kind of said at the time, well, if you're Micah Hyde, do you really want to go through another training camp? Right. Do you want to go through another preseason? Do you want to go through all of that when you have a chance to come in, whether it's based on injury or team needs or play, that sort of thing, to come in late in the season and maybe make a push for the playoffs? So now he shows up in December. They've already clinched the division. He's got 5 games here to ramp up and then get ready for the playoffs. It's a win-win for him. I mean, I kind of thought it was a possibility all along, but I thought it maybe would be more based on an injury that we never really saw. So there's a chance that he gets out there and plays at some point, whether more injuries happen or not.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I thought if DeMar Hamlin struggled, if Rapp struggled at some point, and they were like, we just need more, but they haven't. I mean, Taylor Rapp has been solid.
Yep.
DeMar Hamlin, I don't want to say a pleasant surprise, but with his entire history,
he's been fine this year.
That he's there, and as the season has gone on, he's gotten better. And I think, I mean, gosh, it was maybe a month ago before one of the Bills practices, part of the talk was, well, if you're Micah Hyde, would you leave to come back to be on a practice squad in Buffalo and just...
He lives in San Diego.
Right. And just come back here just for that? Or would you only come back for the opportunity to play? It's the NFL, Andy. I have a sneaking suspicion there's going to be an opportunity for him to play, and that's why he's back. Because something either, and you and I talked about this earlier, we talked about the 3 safety look that the Bills had run at times last year with Micah Hyde, Poyer, and Rapp. So I think a lot of that's on the table, too.
Keep in mind, too, since they released Mike Edwards, who never really panned out, they've been running with only 3 full-time safeties on game days. And then other guys would step in behind Cole Bishop, Hamlin, and Rapp. if they needed them. That would be like a Cam Lewis or a Jamarcus Ingram who could also play safety in a pinch. The way this works out, you don't even really have to put him on the 53-man roster if you want him to play. Take this scenario. Spend 2 weeks getting Micah Hyde ramped up, getting him back in to the flow of things with the defense. He knows the defense, but give him a couple of weeks to get acclimated, right? And then each player gets 3 practice squad call-ups to be elevated to the game day roster. So you could do that the final 3 weeks of the season, and then in the playoffs, it's unlimited per player call-up to the game day roster from the practice squad. So you could, in theory, wait 2 weeks and have him play the rest of the way and have him be your 4th safety, have him do whatever you need to do. I don't think he's stepping in right now to be a starter because I think Hamlin has played well enough to not have that happen. But if somehow he's hurt or struggles, I mean, it's there. And it's possible for Micah Hyde to get some game time as they make a push for a Super Bowl.
And it's the NFL, so it's not going to be easy. And we'll get into this push for the top seed, too, because the Bills are going to be playing meaningful games all the way to the end of this season, I feel. But again, you have the Patriots at home, the Jets at home, and then the Patriots on the road for the final 3 games where he could be called up and see a little action. You got the Patriots with a young quarterback and just a team that's in shambles right now. You have the Jets with Aaron Rodgers and a team that's in shambles right now that called up for that game, even if just rotating in to get into the flow of things, I think is pretty realistic to that being part of what Micah Hyde is doing here.
And I want to be clear, and Sean McDermott wanted to be very clear. He came out and said it right in his opening statement that the addition of Micah Hyde, his return, doesn't say anything about what they feel about the players they have in Taylor Rapp, in DeMar Hamlin, and in Cole Bishop, the rookie, that their roles don't change. And we asked Cam Lewis about this too. I asked him specifically. McDermott said nobody's role changes, whether that's him as a backup nickel, a backup safety, whatever that might be. And he said, we don't care. It's great to have 23 back. Whatever that does for anybody's role, he's a great player. So if he gets on the field, he'll be out there and able to make plays. But McDermott was very careful about that because he didn't want to upset the apple cart at all. And he also said that, look, there's only a certain few kinds of players that we would bring in a situation like this. This is a team that's been together since April, May, through training camp, and through the first 12, 13 weeks of the regular season. You can't just bring any personality into the locker room. Micah Hyde, McDermott said, fits in seamlessly. He could just as easily go be a president of a bank as he could be a captain on the Buffalo Bills. So McDermott didn't have any concerns there, but he was very careful to say nobody's role is being altered, at least for now.
And as Josh Allen said, he's just a great human being. So you bring in Hyde, and they talk about his locker room presence and his leadership, and that's part of what he's going to be doing here with the team on the practice squad. Maybe, I don't want to say working with Cole Bishop, but be there for Cole Bishop to turn to, be there for the other guys here to turn to, and just an overall leader of the team, Andy. But the team has changed a lot since Jordan Poyer left. And now you have other voices in there. And I'm sure if you're Terrell Bernard, you're not going to be like, oh, Jesus, Poyer. Hyde's back. This is my defense. I'm the one leading this defense. I don't think there's anything remotely like that on the table here. I think Hyde comes in. He's
smart enough to not upset things. He knows what role he's stepping into, and he said it. This is a different role. I'm here on the practice squad to be a leader, to help nurture and develop whoever needs my help. And if I get in the game, great, and I'll do what I can there. So I don't think he's the type of guy that would upset that at all. He's been the voice for a long time. I mean, you talked about Poyer. Poyer and Hyde really were the voice of that defense, an extension of what McDermott's message was since 2017. I mean, really, those two guys were the foundation for what the Bills would ultimately become.
Right.
So I don't think there's any ego or anything like that from either side. All the guys we talked to, locker room guys, were just excited that 2-3 was going to be back, right?
Yeah.
That's a guy they respect and a guy that they all learned a lot from and went through a lot of battles with over the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, defense and offensive people
Right.
both bringing it up. And, I mean, I made this comment to you a few weeks ago when Rapp was at the podium and no one was really there because everyone was looking for. And I said, well, it's not like when Hyde was there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
He's been a spokesman, an ambassador.
Right. I got to give Rapp credit. He's having a great season.
Yep.
But it was just always a different feeling when Micah Hyde and Poyer as well came to the podium. You knew that you were hearing from the team. When they said what they said, you knew that that's what the team was all about. So some people saw it coming. Some people didn't see it coming. I can't say that I'm surprised that they did it. I mean, this is one heck of a safety, emergency pull lever that if things start to slide in this chase with the Chiefs and with the Steelers on their toes, we'll get into that in a little bit, to get the top seed. And then when you get in the playoffs, Andy, it's all hands on deck. You want that Super Bowl. This could only help the Bills in their push to the Super Bowl.
And it's goodwill for a guy who really was a foundational piece of what this team has become.
Totally
you
a
don't
part of
do
the
it-
turnaround.
You don't do it for that reason,
Right.
but it's an added bonus if you can bring Micah Hyde back for the next 2 months and a push to the playoffs and get that guy a chance to play in a Super Bowl and maybe win one.
They brought Cole Beasley back. They brought John Brown back.
That was a little more out of desperation.
I know it was.
But that's exactly it. They're not in a desperate spot.
Right.
McDermott literally said, quote, "We're in a good spot." And he said respectfully, I don't have high expectations for Micah Hyde because we don't need him to be that guy. We're in a good place. We don't need him to go out and be the starter next week against the Rams or against Detroit in 2 weeks, right? So it's just easing him in, see where it goes. He's insurance, he's leadership, he's all those things.
Yeah, and, his history the last season and a half or so with the neck problems and the neck injuries.
Yeah.
And, that still, to me, looms out there because, I mean, that was one of the reasons why he kind of stepped away a little bit,
Yeah.
I felt, because you don't want to screw with the neck. I think anyone would sit there and agree with it. Now you have Micah Hyde on the injury report, not Micah Hyde, Taylor Rapp with a neck shoulder injury, but Sean McDermott said that for sure has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, and Hyde said that he thought it was important after last season to step away and make sure that his health was in a good place, be with the family, figure those things out, and he took his time with it. And yeah, you don't want to mess with the neck. Don't forget when he had the neck injury the first time a couple of seasons ago, he basically was a coach on the field that whole season.
Right.
So this role isn't all that unfamiliar to him. Yeah, he can play and he'll be practicing and doing all those things, but he's kind of gotten used to that grizzled veteran coach on the field kind of role. It might suit him.
I just wanted to get to 20 minutes talking about Micah Hyde, just so we
going.
can say we did it.
Yeah, I mean, he still played well at times last season.
I thought him and Poyer lost a step a bit, but again, he hasn't been doing, other than training, he hasn't been playing in football games up to this point.
I mean, he played in 14 games last year. He had 2 picks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had 54 combined tackles.
I just don't view this as a practice squad player that the Bills brought into the team. This is
no, it's not like this is a depth rotational. This is not a project. This is a undrafted free agent out of wherever that we're just bringing in to kick the tires on. I mean, they know what he can do. Yeah, he's probably lost a little bit of a step the last couple of years, but he still is Micah Hyde, and he still knows where to be. And in a pinch, he can play, and they might need him. Who knows?
Yeah. This is all going to play. I'm in agreement with you that we're going to see him call, because you have the call-ups. You might as well do it
Right.
with him, especially with just the 3 safeties.
Yeah, and if you want to do it here in the last few weeks of the season, just to get his feet wet and let him play, and maybe you don't need him for the postseason, maybe you call him up, maybe you don't. But right, to only have 3 on the roster, to bring in the 4th, I think that's huge because, like, say Hamlin goes down or whoever, and then you're one shot away from having no safeties left.
Right.
So to have the 4th guy who's a dedicated safety and is decorated as a 2 or 3 time second team All-Pro as Micah Hyde is big. He's going to be 34 end of this year.
That's young.
Yeah.
To me, that's very young. Now I'm one of those
too.
old guys.
He was born the same year as my kid brother, so that's young to me.
Super young.
Yeah.
So he's back, and we got Matt Milano. We saw him on the field a little more than I think many thought against the 49ers back on Sunday. And by all updates from at least Sean McDermott from talking to the medical staff, Matt Milano came off that game well. And there are other bodies that here on a Wednesday, as we get ready for the game on a Sunday, are getting healthier, and maybe we see the return of some of them sooner than later.
Yeah, Bills had a walkthrough practice on Wednesday, so that means that we didn't get to go in and see any video, record anything, watch practice. When they have a walkthrough, we're not allowed in as media members. So Dalton Kincaid, limited. He's been out last couple of weeks with that knee injury. Keon Coleman, also limited. Curtis Samuel, limited. Taylor Rapp, limited. We brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
And also Quentin Morris, limited. Dwayne Carter, rookie defensive tackle, full practice. So he should be good to go.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle that as far as roster moves go with Jordan Phillips and Quentin Jefferson and all that. And Tylen Grable, who was a great story coming into the season, he practiced in full, so he could be back too. Remember, Tylen Grable started the season as their swing tackle, which was surprising as a rookie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, encouraging news that Kincaid and Coleman practiced somewhat. We don't know exactly how much they did or what they'll do on Thursday, but getting closer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's better than Kincaid didn't practice at all the last 2 weeks. So
Right.
to see limited means it's progressing in the right way. I think Keon Coleman was close to returning for the 49ers game, but ultimately,
They certainly didn't need him.
yeah, the team didn't need him. And, it would be interesting to see him come back because he was heating up so much, Andy.
Yeah, like you look at
before
that
his-
Seattle
his
game.
injury
Yeah.
that it was a bummer to have him miss this time because of where he could have progressed as far as being a rookie, where we are now, slowly approaching the postseason.
And it's interesting, too, the way Matt Collins is playing okay.
Like it.
It'll be how do they handle Kincaid with Knox? Because Knox has played well in Kincaid's absence.
It's one of those things where, it's a good problem to have, but it's a tough problem to have.
Right.
I got to, you sit there and you hear, all right, well, Kincaid's back. Okay, but the Bills' offenses look good with Dawson Knox out there. I'm not saying don't put Kincaid out there.
Because he's a different player.
Right.
They haven't used him to his fullest ability this season.
No, and it doesn't make sense at times.
He didn't turn out to be like the 100 catch guy that we thought could be a possibility.
That was my preseason prediction.
Was
that
it?
he would be.
I didn't even remember that. We
Yeah.
make these grand proclamations and these
They're all
surprises.
stupid. Everyone
Right.
does them.
like Stevie Johnson,
Undefeated season.
undefeated, and then it was what 15-1 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever. Anyways, yeah. So that'll be interesting to see how they handle that. There's going to be some roster machinations here coming up for Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott to go through, figure out how they want to use these guys on the 53-man roster as they get healthier, apparently. I mean, and there's still 5 weeks left, so guys could still certainly get banged up. We've seen that happen plenty of times, so things could change. But right now, it's all kind of trending in that positive direction.
Yeah. Tread lightly around this is great because the Bills are getting healthy at the end of the season. There's still 5 games left.
Right.
It's the
It's
NFL.
a third of the season, basically.
Right. anything can happen still.
It just feels weird because they clinched the division so early.
Right.
We were talking about this with McDermott today. But how do you keep focused, right? He was asked, like, how do you keep that hunger and that ferocity knowing you've already clinched one of your primary goals, which is win your division? Remember last season, they had to go on Sunday Night Football in the last game of the regular season, beat Miami to clinch the division and get in the playoffs.
And they could have not even made the playoffs at all that day.
So at the point they were 6-6, every game was a must-win.
Yeah.
Now, McDermott said, look, we have to continue to think differently. They have broader goals than just winning the division. That one seed's going to be in play. Depends on what Kansas City does, but that could be in play. All they have to do is stay a game ahead of Kansas City the rest of the way, and the Bills will get the one seed.
Mm-hmm.
So Kansas City's got a couple of tough games. Bills certainly could go on the road and lose to the Rams. They certainly could go on the road and lose to Detroit, who looks like an absolute machine.
Right.
Except for the second half against the Bears on Thanksgiving. But
you look at this, Andy. I was eating during the second half of the Lions-Bears.
You missed the best part.
Probably. I know I didn't win any DraftKings action. You got the Chiefs at 11-1, Bills 10-2.
Steelers.
Andy, I keep looking at the Steelers at 9-3.
Do you have the Steelers schedule up there? I know they play the Chiefs.
I know. I think the Steelers have the Eagles too.
Okay.
Which would be a beast for them, because the Eagles are right up there. But the Steelers, Andy, I remember talking to you early in the season about them just being phonies, and I looked.
Their schedule's tough. They've got the Browns, who are playing better. I mean, what a crazy game with
Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs,
and then Bengals, who they just had a shootout with.
So you never know what's going to happen there. So you have the Steelers with that. We've gone over ad nauseum the Chiefs' schedule and compare it to the Bills' schedule.
Right. They still have to play the Chargers, Broncos, and Steelers.
Yeah, so
it'll be interesting.
I mean, I think it's Chiefs Steelers the night of the Lions game. I could be wrong on this.
Chiefs Steelers is Christmas.
Okay.
That's the Netflix Christmas game where everybody's worried after the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight whether Netflix can actually handle.
They better get that together by then.
Right.
I mean, you can do that with a fake Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight, but if this game is that big and Netflix crashes, NFL might.
I felt like I was watching like Antonio Inoki versus Muhammad Ali or Roddy Piper versus Mr. T.
Roddy Piper, Mr. T. I'm down with that.
That was great. We also saw Big Show, Paul White against Floyd Mayweather at WrestleMania one year.
Uh-huh.
Boxing and wrestling go back. There's a reason why people think boxing's fixed. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson was a classic example.
Oh, yeah. Get more money the longer the fight goes.
Right.
Yeah, any other threats, though, Andy? I don't see them for the Bills in the...
No, it's those three teams.
So you got the team you're chasing, and you got a team chasing you.
Right.
And then, excuse me, next team is the Texans at 8-5, and the Chargers are at 8-4. I mean...
Yeah, you lose a couple if you're the Bills. I mean, that's all in the realm. So, I mean, the Bills could be anywhere. We know they're... a top four because they won the division already, which is crazy.
It would be hard to see them losing
any of the last three.
But there's also part of me that the fact that the Patriots beat them during the regular season last year, the game in Foxborough is the last game of the season. We'll pretty much know how everything sits then, I think. And if not, then it's all hands on deck to try and get the one seed.
Yeah. I love the word you used for the Jets and the Patriots, shambles.
They are.
I love that word, and we don't use it often enough. The Jets are such a mess. I love it.
This was like when you go look back, and I'm not saying anything profound here, but all the people who thought the Jets and Dolphins were going to be better than the Bills.
I did.
I mean, I remember we went back and forth over would it be Miami or the Jets if someone was to dethrone the Bills. And
I was wrong about Rodgers being shot, and I was also wrong about their defense being really good.
Their
I was wrong. I thought they would be much better. I thought it was going to be a race for this division between all three. And I didn't like Miami because to me they proved that they're just SAWFT, soft. They're soft.
They are soft, wicked soft. Let's do this, Andy. Let's get to the game before we go. Hey, how about this? Going from playing in the snow to playing out in sunny L.A., Andy.
Dude,
with a roof over you.
I've never been to California. I am so looking forward to this.
That's awesome.
I just told you this. I spent 3 hours prior to Sunday Night Football snow blowing and shoveling my driveway and yard and helping my neighbors out, and then went to Sunday Night Football and stood in the cold for an hour and a half after the game. I'm going to be looking forward to getting to LAX Saturday afternoon, grabbing some In-N-Out with our photographer, Corey, and then driving straight to the beach, dipping my toes in the Pacific Ocean for the first time in my life.
West Coast waters.
And then we'll go to the hotel and then go to Santa Monica Pier, get some dinner, whatever.
I'm jealous.
But anyways, people want to hear about the football game and not my travels.
Well, if you see Nick Bakay out there, tell him I said hi.
Yeah, he loves Andy Reid.
So that's going to be cool. And then another dome game, Andy, against the Lions. So 2 big games, indoor games. Nice break from the cold weather because final 3 games outside, probably going to be cold. If they are able to get home field advantage, going to be cold. If you're playing in Buffalo or even if you get the 2 seed, you're going to have to deal with some cold weather games. So you have the Rams now. You have Josh Allen coming off another AFC Offensive Player of the Week. No surprise there. Going up against a Rams team that I think Allen can do what he did a couple of years ago and move the ball and put up points.
Yeah, I mean, they're giving up 24 points a game. They're lower end of the pack, lower echelon in terms of defense and in terms of offensive scoring as well. So I think that the Bills certainly have the advantage here. The Rams are in a playoff hunt. That division is mediocre, but everybody's right there with each other in the NFC West. So they're playing hard. Sean McVay, good coach. Stafford's a good player. But I think the Bills' offense will definitely have an advantage in this game and should be able to move the ball and do some things however they want to do it. I mean, they're giving up quite a bit of rushing yardage per game. 144 rush yards per game is the Rams defense. So, I mean, that's 5th worst in the league.
They lost to the Dolphins. They beat a bad Patriots team, lost to the Eagles, and then barely got by a Saints team, Andy, that because of the late start for the Bills 49ers, able to sit there and watch some of it, at least on the red zone. And against the Saints team, I kind of expected more from them because they were without Cooper Kupp for a while. I think Puka Nacua missed some time. They're both back. Stafford's big weapons. So that is a tiny bit of a concern, but I don't know. I just look at this game, and if the Bills are in the right headspace coming off clinching the AFC East and go out there and take care of business, not look ahead to the Lions, I think, this is a game for the Bills to grab that 11th win of the season.
This is a game where the Bills classically cruise.
Mm-hmm.
It's a non-conference, non-divisional game against an opponent that's somewhat weaker.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect them to win and have their way for the most part. This is usually a spot where they do well.
Yeah, Rams barely beat the Seahawks 26-20. So this sets up well, Andy, I think, without getting too deep into it. I just look back at that Thursday night opener a few years ago, and, I mean, I know some things have changed.
Their personnel's flipped over, especially defensively, quite a bit.
Oh, Von Miller returning to the Rams.
Yeah, he came back the next year after he had signed with the Bills after they'd won the Super Bowl. But it's another chance for him to go out there, and he never misses a chance to tell people that he won a Super Bowl with the Rams and another one with the Broncos.
He
did it today.
He also said today, well, I had the choice between Stafford and Josh Allen. So either way, I was going to win. I don't know if Bills fans might read too much into that they think Stafford's on the same level as Josh Allen.
Don't stir the pot.
But
here.
I just thought it was interesting.
No, he's the eternal optimist.
Oh, I know.
And he loves to say how good the players and coaches he's been with in the past are.
Yeah.
That's just kind of his shtick.
I know.
So I wouldn't read anything into that. But
I wouldn't either.
Hey,
that's why I brought it up.
Some people have thin skin. They got a little chip on their shoulder. They're always looking for something to be pissed off about.
He said what?
Yeah.
BetMGM, Andy, let's get into it. They have Bills minus 4.5 in this one. I think this is a comfortable win for the Bills. So, yeah, I'm good with that.
I take the Bills there to cover.
Over under 49.5. I'm
going to say under because the Bills have been hitting 30.
Right.
But
their opponents
I would say
been around 10.
Right. So even if it's 31-17, that's under.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to say under. Unders are never fun, though.
They're not fun. So I'm going to take the over.
Okay.
I'm going to say this one becomes more of a shootout with the Bills, getting far enough away that every time the Rams start to get close, the Bills just pull away even.
But they still win by 9 or something.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, 40-28 Bills.
40-28. Wow. That's a high-scoring game.
I really want to see a high-scoring game. To me, it feels like scoring so down in the NFL this year. You go back, I remember years ago, I'll go rewatch the Bills game. That had a ton of offense in it. It was fun to watch. Now you go back and rewatch some games, and it's they score 20 points, 20-13, and it's just boring to rewatch.
The Bills games?
Yeah, some of the Bills games I've gone back to.
I mean, they're scoring 30 in 9 times this year?
Yeah, I understand it, but it's not – I don't know. There's something missing from it to me.
Do you know what's missing is not a lot of, bombs.
Right, big, exciting plays.
Right. Most of their explosives have been yak kind of plays.
Right.
Or Allen crazy runs. So, yeah, they're not hitting downfield bombs.
I mean, the bottom line is just keep winning, and I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying I want an exciting game where the Bills put up big numbers.
Well, this is the classic case of perception versus reality.
Yeah.
You perceive things, and I bring a dose of reality. It's kind of what this show's all about.
I don't live in reality, Andy.
Well, we know that.
All right, I'm taking the over. You're taking the under. I'm looking at a high-scoring game. You're looking at standard operating procedure.
Yes.
Okay. 3 and out. Hit on Trevor Lawrence, Andy.
Dirty.
Super dirty. I'm more when I look at it. And who's the player's name? I got to look it up. I don't have it in front of me here, but
for the Texans, I don't want to mispronounce it.
Right. So my reaction is the hit's bad enough, but the reaction to it with the constant fighting on the field.
Azeez Al-Shaair.
Yeah, Azeez Al-Shaair.
Yeah.
Bad hit on Trevor Lawrence. I have friends who are like, he should have slid maybe 2 steps before to avoid it.
That wasn't a great slide by him. It was late. But
right.
At the same
But
time, that guy clearly had enough time to pull up and not drive his forearm right into Trevor Lawrence's head and shoulder.
Right.
In that prone position.
Gets his suspension.
Tap the guy down.
And appeals it.
And you want to say, they're football players. He's running. It's what happened to football.
Got that one, too. He's a running back at that point.
Dude, do you want Trevor Lawrence to play or do you want Kevin Carroll off the practice squad to play?
If I get a little extra money, I'd come in.
Right. You want the stars out there. It is what it is. They protect the quarterback. It's not football from 1978 where you're taking dudes' heads off. Or even 2008 for that matter.
Right. It's a different time.
Go back and watch Ravens footage or Ravens Steelers games with Ryan Clark and Troy Polamalu destroying people. Or go back even to the 49ers or the
Ronnie Lott
or Steve Atwater for the Broncos.
Yeah.
Or these dudes that are just ripping people's heads off. That It's not in the game anymore. They don't want it. Do you want people to have CTE, and do you want backup quarterbacks playing? If the answer is no, then you have to live with you can't take shots like that at guys anymore.
That being said, I think Josh Allen is doing a better job at protecting himself this year.
I think so too, and he's
not running as much either.
I mean, like, people were giving him crap week 1 when he dove and hurt his hand, right?
I gave him crap.
And he hurt his hand a little bit last week. They looked at it. So, I mean, McDermott said today that he's doing a good job of picking his spots, which is what you have to do with Josh.
Yeah.
Because you take away his legs, I mean, that's what makes him – it's what makes people around the league say he's the best player in the NFL. The best quarterback, the best player, because he can do all these things. You take that away from him, it takes a part of his game.
That's true.
But I agree with the suspension.
I agree with it too.
There's no place for a shot like that, just because you know what the deal is now.
The fact that he's a repeat offender,
right,
adds to it, and I get it. Everyone's going to defend it or appeal it or anything like that, but
right.
I don't know. I think he deserved more, and they'll do whatever they do. Sabres' epic collapse. I know this is a football podcast, Andy, but
that was embarrassing.
I, like a lot of people who have jobs where you get up early in the morning, at 4-1, I'm like, all right, enough's enough in the second period. I'm going to bed. Get up in the middle of the night, check my phone, see that they lost, and just a crap storm on how you could totally – they were so in control in that first period, Andy. It's just ridiculous.
Even after you give up a goal in the second period, you get to the third period up 4-1. You can't lose that game.
No.
And it's just a symptom of what has been a horrific stretch for this franchise. And it's what makes people call them one of, if not the worst franchise in sports right now. They just can't get out of their own way. Look at what this team did. They go on the West Coast, first time in forever, sweep the California trip. They're in a playoff spot. They're third place in the division. They're only a few games away from first place even.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come back immediately, lose 3. Then you play the Colorado Avalanche, and you go up 4-0 in the first period. And you end up losing that game. You didn't even get to overtime.
No.
You lost in regulation.
You didn't get a point from this game.
I don't know what else to say other than what makes it worse is, and I told one of our colleagues in the media room at the Bills this, is that there's no benefit of the doubt with this team. If they had been a playoff team for years and they're cruising along and they're fine this season, and this was a one-off where something crazy happens where you lose when you were up 4-0, which hadn't happened, I think our buddy Mike Harrington from the Buffalo News said, since 1988 for the Sabres.
I'm still in high school.
And lost that game 10-4 somehow.
And they made it to the playoffs that year, I think.
If you had a one-off where, like, you blew a lead and it was fine, but you had been a good team for a while, you get some benefit of the doubt. This team has none. And it's the same story. It's the same cast of characters who, for whatever reason, seem mentally weak. And after the game, Tage Thompson or whoever it was said there was some panic in us. Why? Why are you panicking? As soon as that game got to 4-2, I said, oh, they're losing this game. And I figured it'd probably get to overtime. They score with 3 minutes left. Do Colorado. Not good. Sabres give you no hope that this is ever going to turn around.
Seriously.
Lindy
Ruff comes in.
But the players are the same, basically.
Right. But there are pockets where it's like, oh, they're getting Lindy's mess. I mean, Lindy Ruff is a winning coach. And these guys are making him look bad.
Right.
It's all on the players with me in this one.
Well, and then if it's all on the players, then who is that ultimately on?
Kevin Adams.
Which is then ultimately on who?
Me. Terry Pagula.
Terrence Pagula. Yeah.
So we'll see what unfolds with that. But, I mean, you got one team in Buffalo riding higher than maybe
owned by the same damn guy.
Right.
How does that happen? No, you got the GM and the head coach right, and you got the quarterback right.
It was funny listening to something Von Miller said today about where they are and what Sean McDermott's message to them was get out there and play and execute the football games the way we want you to. You, as a player, don't worry about the result. Something towards that effect.
Right.
Will Warrior, you go do.
Trust the process.
And the Sabres can't do. You're up 4-0. Stop thinking about blowing a 4-0 lead.
Go win your shift.
And go out there and do your job when you're out there.
Right.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. I just don't know what to say about the Sabres anymore. They won't get anyone's benefit of the doubt until they prove for a season that they can be a consistently playoff caliber team. Mm-hmm. They have not proven that clearly in 13 years.
Wow, it's been that long.
I came back to Buffalo. I grew up in Western New York. Everybody knows that. My first season was the first year they missed the playoffs, covering the Sabres. So I arrived in
So it's your fault.
Yeah, 2010-11 was the last time they made the playoffs. My first year was the 11-12 season. So they have not made the playoffs in my entirety at Spectrum News 1 Buffalo, covering them in one way, shape, or form.
Well, that happened to me with the Bills for 17 years.
Right.
So hang in there, Andy.
Wow.
Just put in a few more years.
All right.
They'll turn around. Andy, Yacht Rock documentary out on Max. Do you know what it is?
Do I know what Yacht Rock is? Or do I know
documentary that
No.
there's something out right now? You
I
know
did.
what Yacht Rock
Yes,
is, right?
which I like Yacht Rock.
I do too.
I like some soft 80s kind of stuff.
In fact, when the documentary came out over Thanksgiving weekend, one of my friends on this big text chain with a bunch of college people I know sent out, you got to watch Yacht Rock. It reminds us of Carroll back when we were all in college.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at Steely Dan, Michael McDonald, Christopher Cross.
Yep.
You know, it's all...
Toto
kind of took me by surprise because
Kenny Loggins.
You think of Africa and
Hall and Oates.
The documentary's a real fun watch, Andy, and you'll hear songs on there that you're like, oh my God, I haven't heard this song in forever, and oh, I didn't realize this, and
what a fool believes.
So, and then there's a part of it where you don't realize that a lot of these guys were crisscrossing with each other. And like some of them were filling in and helping out with like Fleetwood Mac.
Okay.
And some other bands.
Like writing for them or doing studio sessions.
doing studio sessions with them.
Okay.
Like a lot. I don't want to say the Beatles were in there, but it was some other bigger bands where you're like, wow, I would have never known that. It's a good watch, Andy.
I'll have to check it out.
Check it out.
I'm down.
Bills.
Why are
Heading
you
out.
screaming?
I don't know. I'm tired. Bill's gonna ram it out in L.A. this weekend, Andy. As they have a 4:25 kickoff. We'll be back post game with Stevie Johnson on the post game show, and then another podcast coming your way to wrap things up from L.A.
Do us a favor. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to us. We love your support.
As always, thanks for joining us, everyone.